Hi, grade 4s. Today, we are going to talk about using benchmark numbers to say if a fraction is closer to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole. This helps us when we're comparing fractions that have different numerators and denominators, and also when we're putting fractions on a number line. Before we get started, I want to remind you about the parts of a fraction. So remember, my top number is called the numerator. This is how many pieces I'm talking about in my whole. The bottom number is called my denominator. This is how many pieces my whole has been broken up into. So the fraction 1/4 could be looked at as 1 piece of pizza out of 4. So now we're going to use the benchmark numbers 0, 1/2, and 1 whole to decide which my fraction is closer to. The first fraction I'm going to look at, I know it's hard for you to see that number there, but it's 2/10. So, is 2/10 closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole? I can use the picture to help me, but I can also use the numbers to help me. So if I think about 10 pieces of my whole, I know about 1/2 of that would be about 5/10. That would be half of my 10 pieces. So my fraction is smaller than 1/2, is less than 1/2, so I know the fraction 2/10 cannot be close to 1 whole. I also know it's not going to be closest to 1/2 either, because that would be about 5/10, and I only have 2 of those little pieces, so the fraction 2/10 is closest to 0. I have another fraction. This fraction is 10/12. Pause the video and see if 10/12 is closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, and then come back and check. So I have the fraction 10/12. Just like last time, I'm looking at my picture to help me, but also the numbers in my fraction can help me as well. My whole is 12. I know about half of my whole would be 6/12, 6 pieces of 12. And I have 10 of those colored in. So I know right away this fraction is not close to 0. It's also not that close to 1/2, because that would be 6 pieces out of 12. And I have 4 more pieces than that. So the fraction 10/12 is pretty close to 1 whole. Remember, if the number in my denominator is bigger, that means my whole has been broken up into tinier pieces. So I only have 2 little pieces left that haven't been colored in, so that's pretty close to 1 whole. Another fraction. This fraction is 3/5. Again, pause it and see if it's closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, and then come back and check. So 3/4, I'm using my picture to help me, and also the numbers in my fraction. It's not that close to 0, because I have 3 pieces shaded in out of 5 pieces. If I think about what would be 1/2, I know that 1/2 of 5 would be somewhere between 2 and 3. And I have 3 pieces, so I'm going to say 3/5 is pretty close to 1/2, because I can see half of this would be somewhere between 2 and 3 pieces. We're going to look at one more fraction without using a picture. If I had the fraction 5/8, is that going to be closest to 0, to 1/2, or 1 whole? Pause the video and try, and then come back and check. So 5/8, I'm going to think about what would be 1/2. What would be half of 8? That would be about 4 pieces out of 8. So I know the fraction 5/8 is not going to be that close to 0, because I have 5 of those pieces colored in, or 5 of those pieces of cake eaten. It's pretty close to the fraction 1/2, because that would be 4 pieces out of my 8 pieces. And I have 5 pieces, so that's just 1 more piece than half. So I'm going to say the fraction 5/8 is closest to the benchmark 1/2. I still have 3 pieces before I get to my whole. I'm 5 pieces away from 0, but only 1 piece away from 1/2.